Texans go to Indianapolis and get the win. Joe Mixon dominant. Stefon Diggs finds the end zone twice. Nico Collins continues to own Indianapolis. There's a lot to get into. We'll hear from D'Amico. We'll hear from CJ. We'll hear from you. Let's go inside the locker room. Another Texans post-game show. First one of 2024. Let's eat.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localized, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localized every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not too plugged in.
After all the hype, that is how the season starts, and it starts in an interesting manner. A lot of good things to get into, a lot of interesting observations. It is a locker room number one source for Texans digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can catch me on this channel throughout the season, so if you're new to it, be sure to subscribe. I'll be at practice throughout the week. Going to get there tomorrow as well. And we'll also hear from D'Amico. We'll hear from CJ. Super chats go to the front. I posted the link if you want to get in and chat as well. It's on there. There's all kinds of comments right now, so it might be hard to track down. A couple of takeaways from this game. I think this is my biggest takeaway, or one of my biggest takeaways. And we'll get to the biggest takeaways. We'll get to the key moments from the game. But this is one of my biggest takeaways from this game. And I'm not saying this to be trite. I'm not saying this to gas up the Texans. I'm not saying this for any other reason other than how I watched this game and how it felt. And we'll get to the controversy in a second too, because the Texans aren't off the hook for that. But here's my biggest takeaway. I watched this team and I do not even feel like they played great. Okay? And I mean that as the ultimate compliment. I can't remember the last time that the Texans, if ever, went on the road in a hostile environment, had mistakes that a lot of times can cost you ball games, and they walked away with the win. I can't remember that happening too much. So as great as this win was and as big as it was, I still think there's a lot for this team to build on. And that's my biggest takeaway with this dub for the Texans, is that it wasn't perfect. It wasn't even pretty, but they still found a way to win. And we're going to sit here and we're going to get into the keys to the game. We're going to get into what happens. But I also think the pure display of what this era of Texans versus Colts is going to be, I think it was elitely on display today. I think that what we saw today, if you just took these four quarters and you just took everything that you can take from these four quarters when it comes to Texans Colts, I think it was on display. The Anthony Richardson experience. It's got to be frustrating for Colts fans. It really, really does. Outside of two throws where he basically just closes his eyes and throws it up, Anthony Richardson wasn't good today. There were flashes of him doing things that very few guys can do, but Anthony Richardson wasn't good today. He wasn't good. He missed Adonai Mitchell a couple times throughout the game. One would have been a touchdown. He ended up throwing the interception, and he was all over the place. CJ Stroud was really, really good, and he made the plays when you needed him to make the plays, but I don't even know that he was great. So CJ Stroud is elite. Anthony Richardson, this is Anthony Richardson. I think this is what Anthony Richardson is. Good Anthony Richardson. I think we saw him today. We didn't see CJ Stroud elite consistently. I think CJ Stroud looks at this game and says, I can improve on this. But he was able to make big plays when you need him. You fall down on your ass and you end up picking a 4th and 1 that leads to 3 points. Just when the Colts have life, you come out of the 2-minute warning. Kenyon Green picks up the 5-yard penalty, the false start, and CJ Stroud and Nico Collins connect on the sidelines to where even the announcer was tricked. And quite frankly, I don't blame him for being tricked, because you're not supposed to catch that. You're not supposed to catch that. But Anthony Richardson was bad. And I already see the excuses. Jerome Kicks, the contrarian, says, dude slipped on the INT. It shouldn't have even happened because he missed Adonai Mitchell wide open. Doesn't matter. he overshot him a little bit. The announcer's wrong. Jerome Kicks is going to be the contrarian. This is the Skip Bayless of the stream. Shout out to you, Jerome. I love you. But it shouldn't have even come down to that. Just like the end of the first half, the referee, the dopey referee for the Texans, you can sit there and say that he didn't explain it well. You can say that you shouldn't be running a play with 5 seconds left. You should be kicking the 48-yard field goal. So I'm not going to give the Texans a free pass on that. I'm not going to give Anthony Richardson a free pass for missing a throw that high school quarterbacks could make. So that's the reality. The playing surface was rough, but Anthony Richardson missed Adonai Mitchell before that. We'll get to the end of the first half in a second, because that was an interesting display. I think there were a lot of questions about that. Be sure to smash the like button, by the way, or swarm the like button, as people like to say. You ain't never hate. Swarm. Listen to what Cody Stutes said. Swarm the like button, smash the like button. And we'll see how it goes. Cody Stutes is going to do his thing. We're actually going to do Reaction Monday tomorrow. Spoiler alert. Me and Cody Stutes will be live tomorrow morning, depending on when media availability is. Collaboration with myself and Cody Stutes, extensive exclusive stuff. So we'll figure that out. I didn't think that he really slipped on the INT. Jerome Kicks just listened to the announcer and repeated it. I thought it was a high throw. Right after the Adonai Mitchell thing. Some people just listen to what Tiki says and repeat it. That happens. But the bottom line is CJ Stroud is elite. Anthony Richardson is not. Anthony Richardson can make the phenomenal play. He can't make the basic play. And let's go through the game, the key takeaways, the key plays, all that type of stuff. Again, be sure to swarm the like button. Texans get the dub in Indianapolis today. The news before the game. So we had Cam Akers and we had John Mechie inactive. So the talk about John Mechie making the team and stuff, he made the team, but he was inactive. Is that going to be a trend? Who knows? But John Mechie inactive, Cam Akers inactive, Dameon Pierce was active, and he actually had a decent impact on the game when given his opportunity. We'll get to that in a second. I want to ask if you watch the game on TV, and we have a super chat. Shout out to Sim Sam for the super. Appreciate you. 1-0 in the division after week 1, and let's go Texans. Exactly. 1-0 in the division and didn't even really play great. That's a sign of a really, really good team. Quarterback bailed you out at times. They figured their stuff out. We'll hear from D'Amico in a sec, and then we'll hear from CJ. But D'Amico's making his way to the podium, so we'll hear what he's got to say. And this was a teaching moment for D'Amico Ryans. A lot of times you get teaching moments with your players. I think he had a teaching moment himself, because I do think D'Amico had a brain fart at the end of the game. Jason McCourty is the third man in the booth. Yay or nay? Is it necessary? It seems like networks are willing to make the booth more crowded as long as they can get a McCourty twin in there. Sometimes they even put both of them in there. I didn't think it was bad. I thought that him and Tiki flowed well together. I thought they balanced off of each other. I just thought it was interesting that we had a 3-man booth today. But yeah, that's what that was. But as for the game, Indianapolis, they received first. On their opening drive, they had a failed 4th down attempt. Anthony Richardson on 4th and 1, which I don't know why you're really throwing on 4th and 1. They threw a sideline pass on 4th and 1. Not even a chance for Anthony Richardson to use his legs and arm. It sailed over the head of Adonai Mitchell. Wouldn't be the first time that happened, but the Colts failed to convert on 4th down. And then to the contrary, the Texans, they convert on 4th down on a really, really, really bizarre play in which CJ Stroud falls on his ass, still finds a way to move the chains, gets Brevin Jordan, and the Texans move the chains. But then with 4th and 1, with another opportunity at 4th and 1, the Texans elected to settle for the field goal, for the 51-yard field goal, which I don't have an issue with in this situation, because I thought the offensive line was getting kind of roughed up early on, especially on this series, and you kind of had the fluky 4th down play. So I had no problem with kicking the field goal with Fairbairn on 4th and 1 there. I had no issue with that. Could go a number of ways, but it's not like you're going against an elite quarterback. So just get the points and figure that out. And that's what the Texans did to take the 3-0 lead. Next kickoff, British Brooks. We saw him make the roster. He was active today. I don't know how to explain the block punt, which we'll talk about in a second. I'm sure Frank Ross can get into that when he meets with the media. But British Brooks immediately with an impact on special teams. Nice hit on the kickoff before Indianapolis takes the lead on a 60-yard touchdown from Richardson to Pierce. And this was just one of those throws that very few guys can make. The arm strength, nobody ever disputes that with Anthony Richardson. He finds Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce prances into the end zone. Indy takes a 7-3 lead. Then the Texans, they drive again on 3rd and 5. CJ Stroud, it looked like his footing wasn't perfect, but Titus Howard got kind of pushed back into him. So Kaimi Fairbairn makes his second 50-plus yard field goal. This one right at 50 to make it 7-6. So you feel good about Fairbairn, 2 for 2 from 50 yards. That's a very encouraging thing to see. And they didn't really ask Fairbairn to do much. I think the kickoff might be dying with these new roles. I think it might be the counter of what they were trying to do. Then you had Mario Edwards. We talked about Mario Edwards having a good camp. It was against the Texans O-line, which had some up and down moments today. They did a better job run blocking. Joe Mixon makes them all look good. Mario Edwards' sack ends Indy's drive at the end of the first quarter. And you see 97 getting really, really excited. I have a PSA for Colts fans, and we're going to get to D'Amico Ryans in a second. Maintain some self-respect when cheering on your squad, please. The Mario Edwards sack, there were Indianapolis Colts fans. It seemed like they were booing. They wanted a roughing the passer on just a basic takedown to the ground. I know that the NFL has had instances where these types of calls have been made, but don't cheer for that. You got to be better than that, Indianapolis. Like, what are you, Spurs fans? Are you going to boo every call and cheer every call? No disrespect to the Spurs fans in here, but maintain some dignity while cheering on your squad. I thought that was a low point for the Colts fans in attendance today. Then you had Nico Collins. We've talked about Nico Collins. His over-under in yards was around 66. He had the 75-yard reception on the first play. The last time the Texans were in town, he had a 57-yard reception, two-piece Moss, 2 Colts DBs in the area. That put the Texans in the red zone, and then Stefon Diggs scores his first touchdown as a Houston Texan, makes it 12-7. Texans then miss the 2-point attempt. CJ Stroud slips again, unable to get the handoff smoothly to Joe Mixon, and it brings up the question. It leads to the question. I think this could go a number of ways. Did D'Amico go for 2 too early? You heard Tiki and Jason McCourty discussing that. Did he go for 2 too early? This could go either way. It actually ended up canceling out because as a result, Indianapolis had to go for 2 later on, and they ended up coming up short with Eric Murray sticking Jonathan Taylor right there at the goal line. I have no problem with this. I don't think it's like something. I think a lot of times it's just kind of hindsight. If you want to go for 2 to extend it to 7 early, I have no issue with it. But I understand why some people may not. It's not like something. There's a lot of philosophies like don't call a timeout to save 5 yards. Usually, in a lot of instances, a lot of coaches do that. That's one of the philosophies that I feel passionately about. Go for 2 early or don't go for 2 at this time. I think a lot of times that's just kind of a hindsight type of thing. And we're all guilty of using hindsight every once in a while, but I try not to, and I have no problem with that. You could clearly see that the playing service was a factor, though, after that attempted handoff to Joe Mixon, and that was one of many times where you kind of saw the players slipping around. And then you saw Anthony Richardson. He misses a wide open Adonai Mitchell, and Adonai Mitchell gave Derek Stingley the work on this play. It would have been something that would have been on the highlight reel, but Anthony Richardson just doesn't put enough air on it. And as a result, Indianapolis ends up throwing an interception. Some people would say the receiver slipped. Some people would say it was a little bit high. God forbid Anthony Richardson throw a high pass or anything like that. It seemed to happen a few times today. But Anthony Richardson's inability to connect with Adonai Mitchell followed off with the interception leads to the Colts getting in the red zone and not getting any points. Kalen Bullock, by the way, with the INT, hell of a play by him as well. It wasn't like a complete gift. He had to go up there and make the play. Then we had the end of the second half. And the end of the second half was really, really interesting. I don't think the Texans deserve to be off the hook here. And let me just explain this. The Texans and refs, they both had brain farts. Now, the Texans ended up spiking the ball with 5 seconds left, and it would have set up a 48-yard field goal attempt by Kaimi Fairbairn. However, the catch was reviewed, and Dalton Schultz caught the ball. They were asking if it was an incompletion. I actually think that would have been a break for the Texans had they ruled that an incompletion, but they called it a catch, and they put 15 seconds on the clock. Shane Steichen called a timeout. The referee came over and talked to Shane Steichen, and then the referee actually made the right decision on the 10-second runoff after the review. That wasn't a bad decision, but he didn't explain that Shane Steichen's timeout didn't count. And as a result, I think there was a little bit of confusion. And then as the Texans went to the line of scrimmage, the clock started. Now, the referee seemed a little bit more focused on trying to be funny, and he had his initial one-liner set up like, sorry for the confusion. And as a result, and you heard Serator say this, he didn't really explain what happened. Here's my thing, though. The Texans shouldn't be running a play there no matter what. Whether the clock is stopped or whether the clock is running, you should be kicking the field goal. And if the clock is running and the down is back, then you should be doing what you did after he initially caught it and spiking the ball. Why are you trying to get closer for Kaimi Fairbairn? He made 3 field goals from 50 yards. You kicked a 51-yarder instead of going for it on 4th and 1. So the Texans shouldn't have ran a play there no matter what. Do the refs need to do a better job of explaining? Yes. But no matter what the situation is there, you should have been kicking the field goal. So much like Anthony Richardson's interception, which should have never happened because he should have made the throw to Adonai Mitchell, regardless of why you think that interception happened. Same thing with the Texans. You should not be running a play there. D'Amico said it himself. We had a little bit of a mistake. It's part Texans' fault. It's part ref's fault. But no matter what the ref says, the Texans should have been kicking a field goal there. 5 seconds is not a lot of time. Like, even if you're running the play to the sidelines, you might not be able to stop the clock. Why not line up and just spike it like you did before, and then there's 3 or 2 seconds left and you kick the field goal? The other thing is, hey, referee, if you're not going to explain that Indianapolis didn't get charged a timeout, then the clock clearly shouldn't be running. But even then, there's a chance the clock expires because the Texans are running a play. So the Texans deserve 100% of the blame on their end, regardless of how you want to look at it and regardless of how you want to blame people. And the dorky-ass ref should have explained better instead of trying to go up there and be Kevin Hart on stage in front of the Colts fans. But regardless, the Texans should have explained that better. Let's hear what D'Amico Ryans. Let's hear if D'Amico Ryans is asked about that. Let's go to D'Amico Ryans, and then we'll come back. We'll relive the second half as the Texans got the dub. We'll also hear from CJ Stroud, and we'll also get to some of your comments. Here's D'Amico Ryans after the Texans win, though.
Yeah, it starts with our offensive line. Like, the way they controlled the line of scrimmage was awesome, right? And then Joe, he stepped up big time for us. Well, we needed him to run the ball. He did. They knew it was run. We knew it was run, and he still made the play. So, man, just excited to have him on our side. You know, we've seen it all training camp, and it was exciting to see him do it here his first game. Yeah, CJ, I mean, he made a lot of good plays for us. He was pressured a lot, but he still moved around and made plays. Escaped the pocket. The plays on the move were really exciting plays to see. Same, Steph was Steph. Like, he showed up in the big-time moments, got a touchdown for us. Like, that's who he's been, right? And I'm excited to have him, and he shows what he can do for us.
What does it do for your offense when you have a running game that can be successful when everyone knows you're going to run?
Yeah, it opens everything up, right? When you can run the ball, it opens everything up. When it comes to the passing game, they got to put 8 in the box, right? So now you have a lot of single coverage on the outside, and that's where Nico, Tank, Diggs, they can make their plays. Oh, made plays when we had to, but not good enough, right? Got to eliminate the big plays. That's when you give up points. When you give up the big plays, that equal points. So overall, we had some good spurts there, good on third down, but just the last one just cannot happen.
Here we go. Here's the clock explanation.
Yeah, it's just us as coaches start with me, just communication on the sideline. And it's everything for us. Like, those guys can step up and make plays no matter what the situation is. Like, when you can count on those guys to make plays, it's huge for our team, not just the offense, but what they did for our entire team. Joe running the ball, the energy that they provided to our entire team was outstanding. Yeah, Kamari did his job. Caitlin did what he done every day in training camp. He went and took the football. So, I'm very excited, very pleased with what those 2 rookies have done for us. And also Brooks stepping in, making a big tackle on the kickoff. So our rookies play really well.
I mean, going back to Mixon and Diggs, in the offseason when you were looking to get better, why were those guys the ones who wanted to take it up a little bit?
Yeah, extremely tough football players. They love football, and they play the game the right way. It jumps off the tape, and they're great people, right? And adding those guys to our team, it's just evident, like with Steph becoming a captain, with Joe also being on the leadership council, like those guys are leaders as well. So it's just very valuable, not only on the field, but off the field. I think it was just when the play broke down, right? Seeing him being able to, keep it alive and make plays, that was really huge for us.
Talked a lot about the new additions to the team, showing through this game. But when the game really mattered most, Nico Collins really stepped up and had some big plays in this game. Just what can you say about his ability to step up at the clutch, especially against the Colts for your last year?
Yeah, big time playmaker, right? And he's done it a couple times here versus the Colts. So that's what Nico does. He makes big time plays in the moment when we needed it most. Like, what a play, what an awesome catch for him to get down and bounce. It was really big time play. It just came down to tackling, and when the ball is up in the air, we got to be able to go get it. Yeah, that was it.
And close it out with a simple question, but to go on the road in division week 1 against the
1-0 is everything. So excited to be 1-0 on the next week. All right.
There you go. You wouldn't expect anything different from D'Amico. We'll hear from CJ, I'm sure. Man, send Mixon's ass to the podium. Well, don't you think Mixon deserves a little bit of a podium trip? I would say so. But we'll hear from them. But yeah, D'Amico definitely has lost his voice. Super chat from H Town TD 2000. Shout out to you. Appreciate you, my friend. You got your game locker week 1 win. Great running by Mixon. Stefon 2 TDs. Nico with the clutch catches, especially that 3rd and 11 in the 4th, where his knee hits inbound. Go Texans. You summarize that perfectly. We'll get to the second half summary in a second. Also, the first half clock fiasco was enraging. Thoughts on our ability to give up multiple big, deep passes to Anthony Richardson. Kudos to D'Amico for going for TD on 4th and 1 after Diggs. Yeah, I thought D'Amico did a good job of balancing the aggressiveness outside of the mistake at the end. And I appreciate you, TD. Outside of the mistake at the end, I thought D'Amico did a really good job of balancing out the aggressiveness. I think in that instance, you had to go for the touchdown before the Diggs second TD. But I thought he did a decent job of balancing that out outside of the, regardless of what the refs did and regardless of how confusing it was. And it was pathetic. That referee going up there being a dope, trying to make the crowd laugh instead of actually explaining that, hey, Shane Steichen's timeout doesn't count. It's confusing, but even then, like, let's say the clock stopped and there's 5 seconds left. If the Texans are up there and they're running a play, that's dumb. That's not smart. You heard D'Amico admit it. It's a teaching moment. And I think it kind of adds to my biggest takeaway from this game, which I'll get to in a second. Coaches talk about teaching moments. D'Amico is still a relatively young coach. I think that was a teaching moment for him. We'll get to that in a sec, but let's pick up where we left off in the second half. We had a near interception from CJ Stroud to start off the second half. Could have been an absolute disaster. However, the guy's foot didn't land inbounds, at least the second one, which means CJ Stroud, an attempted throwaway, does not throw the interception inside the red zone. Very next play, he finds Tank Dell for 11. They move the chains. Then Tank Dell looked like could have maybe had him on a deep touchdown. However, a good play by the DB in Indianapolis. And then you had Mixon with the run for 5 to extend the chains. Dare comes up short on third and 5. And then the Texans, they end up kicking the 51-yard field goal to make it 15-7, which kind of made me think it was even weirder that the Texans were running a play, right? So on 2 4th and shorts, you settle for the 50-yard field goal. Not saying that's a bad decision. But then you're trying to get closer with 5 seconds left on a 48. Yeah. D'Amico is right. That was a teaching moment, but the Fairbairn 51-yarder made it 15-7 Texans. Then the Texans punting deep in their own territory. Now, I don't know if this is British Brooks. I don't know how, if it was a communication thing or what. But the Texans get the punt blocked. Jonathan Taylor then scores on the very next play. And then you had the gimmicky, it looked like almost like the Peterson, Philadelphia Eagles, whatever the hell they call it, Philly special play. Eric Murray blows up Jonathan Taylor on the reverse. Texans keep the 15-13 lead. So no harm, no foul on going for 2 earlier on. Charge it to the game. D'Amico and the Texans miss their 2-point attempt. Eric Murray makes a hell of a play, cancels it, charge it to the game. No harm, no foul there. Then you had CJ Stroud on 3rd and 14. This was Patrick Mahomes-like type of stuff. Rolling out, throws across his body. This is actually what you tell quarterbacks not to do unless they're CJ Stroud. He finds Nico Collins, and Nico Collins makes big play against the Colts, which is kind of a trend, kind of something that's becoming the new norm. If Patrick Mahomes did this, I don't think ESPN would have stopped showing it, but CJ Stroud does it. And the Texans move the chains. Texans get in the red zone. Kenny Moore appears to have an interception. However, multiple penalties on the Colts. Could have called it on Moore, could have called it on the other DB back there. Texans get inside the 5, and then Joe Mixon makes it 22-13, does a little crazy dance. Hell of a day for Joe Mixon, who adds an element of toughness to this squad that they very much needed. And I think that D'Amico Ryans desires. It seemed like this could have been the icing on the cake. However, just when it looks like Indianapolis is in a bad spot, Anthony Richardson sails a couple of throws. He starts looking at his finger. What was your excuse on the other throws? He finds Doolin for a 55-yard touchdown to make it 22-20. And it's just the Anthony Richardson experience. 2 passes, 2 big plays. And outside of that, there really wasn't much. However, Very next series, a little bit of Joe Mixon early on. There was a screen for 11. Then there was Tank Dell. CJ found Tank Dell. And then Dameon Pierce comes in. Dameon Pierce comes in with a fresh set of downs. He moves the chains on 2 carries. So good job for him. I've talked about getting Joe Mixon some rest into the game. Joe Mixon can go on the sidelines in between getting 30-plus carries. He can get some water, and Dameon Pierce can move the chains. That's a really, really good thing. So Dameon Pierce active, Cam Akers inactive. Dameon Pierce goes out there and moves the chains. So that's all you can really ask for. Then the Texans have it on 4th and goal. Stefon Diggs, the Texans decide to go for it on 4th and goal. Stefon Diggs gets his 2nd touchdown. CJ Stroud rollout. 7.5-minute FU drive. Really should have been the end of it. But then again, Anthony Richardson, unable to do the basic stuff. He throws it up to Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce goes over Jimmy Ward. I got a feeling Jimmy Ward's going to be on You Got Moss tomorrow on ESPN. Maybe twice, but for sure on this one. The Pierce 58-yard catch keeps the game alive for Indianapolis. And then the Indianapolis Colts score. Anthony Richardson scores a touchdown on 4th and goal to give the Colts a chance. 29-27, 2:14 left. So they have the timeouts and they have the 2-minute warning. And it looks like that strategy is going to play out perfectly because the Texans clinging to just a 2-point lead. They come out of the 2-minute warning. It's 3rd and 7. Kenyon Green, false start, 3rd and 12, and then CJ Stroud, just an absolute dart to the sideline to Nico Collins. The announcers were tricked. Everyone was tricked because you're not supposed to complete passes like that. But Nico and CJ, they got that chemistry. They did, and that was pretty much the FU. And then you add in a Joe Mixon run, and Joe Mixon moves the chains, and the Texans end up winning it 3rd and 3. Mixon ices it. So that's what went down with the Texans. Again, just doesn't feel like they played awesome. Feels like they played good. Does not feel like they played awesome. Another super chat from Avenue Central. Tuning in from Lucas Oil. See you guys next week. Shout out to you, my friend. And shout out to you for making that trip. I wonder if you had the St. Elmo's shrimp cocktail. Very, very up and down review. Some people love it. Some people do not. Team in with the super chat. It was only the explosive plays for Indies. We stuffed the run game, clean up a few things, and we'll be good. And that's what's crazy about it is when's the last time? I'm asking this question. When is the last time that the Texans won a road game, a big road game, and you came back and said, man, you know what? That really wasn't perfect. They really got some stuff that they could work on. Like that mistake by D'Amico Ryans at the end of the first half, that could have really cost them. Those big plays that they allowed could have really cost them. When's the last time that happened? That's the craziest thing about this win for me. That there was a lot of possibility for improvement, and they didn't do it. They didn't play great. The margin for error is bigger, which we'll get to in a second. Herman Tharp, $2 super chat. We played down to Indy. I agree. They didn't play good, but I think this is what the Colts are. That's the beauty of this. I think Shane Steichen's a really good coach. I think the Colts can beat the Texans any given Sunday. But I think Anthony Richardson's an up and down quarterback who can do extraordinary things and can't do basic things to win you a game. I think CJ Stroud's an elite quarterback that even when he doesn't have his A game, he can make certain plays in a game like the Nico Collins pass across the field, like the Nico Collins 3rd and 12 after the 2-minute warning. He can do it. And that's the difference, is that the Texans have an elite quarterback. The Indianapolis Colts do not. Two very good coaches, but the quarterback, you can't rely on the extraordinary stuff like that. That's just going back and tossing it up. Now, he can throw it further than a lot of guys. A lot of times it's going to get slept on. But The bottom line is the Texans have an elite quarterback. The Indianapolis Colts do not. They got a very talented one, but he's not elite. How about the Texans doing what the hell I asked them to do? Joe Mixon, the tone setter, the toughness. He got sent to the podium today. A Joe Mixon podium day, 159 yards rushing, 30 carries, and a touchdown. We'll do that for you. Let's hear what Joe Mixon has to say about his incredible Texans debut.
Yeah, man. I mean, credit to our guys. Coach Slowick still trusting, believing us. We was out there being physical. We was running downhill, sideways, downhill, doing whatever we need to do to, crease them and make the most of the runs. But, man, shout out to the fullbacks, tight ends, and O-line and receivers, that was blocking, man. Without them, it wouldn't be possible. Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, basically, it was meant to go front side, and basically the linebackers basically screened over the top, and I just canceled his gap I just replaced his gap where he was supposed to go and made him pay for it. So I'm just glad I was able to close it out, in a crucial moment. Another notch, for real.
Do you feel that same way?
Oh, yeah, man, I definitely do. And I'm just, finally really getting tapped into, the player that I know I am for real. And, the guys is encouraging and doing everything, man, to make sure this thing is still up and going. And I'm just glad, man, that I'm probably one of the forefront person to really set the tone and let people know, what it is, playing this. And you got guys like Nick out there making huge plays, and CJ being CJ, and Steph coming in and making crazy plays, even Tank. And everybody just complimenting each other, the run complimenting the pass, and the pass complimenting the run, man. So we got a hell of a thing that we got going. We just got to keep getting better each and every week.
You're talking about setting the tone. What is the mentality you bring, not only to want the ball that many times, but then to finish these runs by knocking people backwards?
Yeah, man, it's, really about will and want to. I mean, the O-line all week, man, it was just saying, like, hey, man, we got to make this thing shake. We got to make it shake. And I'm like, man, let's go get 150. Let's go get 150 started off. And, hey, we got 159. And, we just got to keep getting better, keep building. Like Steph said, it's a lot of yards to, go get. And shit, even Slug was saying the same thing, man. Hey, you gotta pull up out of there. And it was two of them where, I wish I could have back, bro. But, I mean, more than anything, I'm just proud of how, them boys came out here and we fought hard and we fought to the finish. It was a 4-quarter game, and we used all 15 minutes of it, man. And I'm just glad I was happy to close it out.
Joe, what are your linemen called? Grown man football.
I'll get you next.
What do you call it?
Say that one more time.
What are your linemen just called? Grown man football. What do you call it?
No doubt. That's exactly what it was. I mean, I've been on the lineman, training camp. I wasn't in there too much in training camp, but I'm just letting them know what I see, how to hit and how to be, man. And they doing everything they can to open them holes and do everything that we got to make them, however we can, to make them pay, man. And first off, special shout out to Stover. I mean, he made critical blocks. Them guys on the edges, they make crucial blocks, and we made them pay. But, like they said, the grown man football, I'm just happy. This is my first time really probably seeing a fullback, and I can't remember the last time I seen a fullback in front of me, man. So it's a hell of a feeling, man, being on the winning side of the things. And I'm just glad I'm on this side of, playing with Houston, man.
I just feel, they brought you in the offseason, they brought Stefon in. You guys, debut, both go combined for 3 touchdowns. I just feel that you're doing what you got to do, he's doing what you got to do.
Yeah.
You guys doing what you got to do too.
Oh, yeah, man. Nick, he definitely made some ace moves in the off seasons, bro. And I think that with the guys that was already here with the young core guys, and, I've been a part of something like this where they brought in a lot of free agents or made trades or whatever they did. And, I'm just glad to, one, be on this side. I'm glad that, me and Steph was able to compliment each other in all game, man. We we was on it. We was on it in each other's face, like, bro, like, let's do this. You know what I'm saying? And you could just tell the passion you see from me, Steph, and, you know, guys like CJ. And I ain't seen the O-line really talk, you know, like that. And to know that them boys is really on that, you know, that's what make me go even harder. You know what I'm saying? And I know for a fact that, you know, they feeling the same way, you know, that I am, man. And they just all was like, man, you know, let's keep on going. Let's keep building. And to hear that is everything to me. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to do whatever I can to, you know, one, be a leader, and, you know, two, be the best player that I know that I'm able to be, man. And just try to keep on building with this momentum that we have, keep on going, and everything else will take care of itself.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, there you go. That's Joe Mixon podium day, man. You earned it for sure. And the 40-minute time of possession as well. That increases. I mean, that'll definitely increase your margin for error as a football team. And the Texans' margin for error is up there. We'll hear from CJ Stroud in a second. Be sure to swarm the like button, super chats to the front. It is the Locker Room post-game show. Nathan with the super. Appreciate you, my friend. 2018 against the Broncos, we won on a missed field goal. Okay, you're talking about where Bill O'Brien talked bad about Vance Joseph. Yeah, but Denver wasn't good, really. Like that's my thing. I'm talking about like beating a good team. Indianapolis might not be great, but they're good. That would be my question on that. Chris Johnson with the super. Appreciate you. No words, but thank you very much. He also says the OG sauce put out the fire in my kitchen. Okay, yeah. If you put that, if you put the OG sauce down one tube and you put the Gatorade down the other, the OG sauce is winning that race like Usain Bolt in the Olympics. I can promise you that, especially the new one, not the old one, but the new one. Biggest takeaways from this game before we hear from CJ Stroud, the stuff that matters, the stuff to keep an eye on. Takeaway number one, you just heard from him. Joe Mixon is a tone setter. You hear D'Amico Ryans talk about toughness. Look, this team has a lot of guys that are freak athletes that can do a lot of the flashy stuff that players around the league can't do. Joe Mixon adds an element of toughness, whether it's 30 carries so that you can possess the ball for 40 minutes, whether it's laying a shoulder into a linebacker that's trying to take your head off, whether it's laying a shoulder into a safety that's trying to take your head off. Joe Mixon adds an element of toughness, and he kind of establishes dominance at the line of scrimmage to where other stuff gets opened up. The Tank Dell reverse from Bobby Slowick. If Joe Mixon's going to run the ball like this, like I know that a lot of times like reverses are kind of trigger people, and reverses often lead to like frustration because it's one of the more polarizing calls, but it's going to set up reverses. The reverse game that Bobby Slowick has is going to be set up. And this one went a little bit deep. He flipped it back to Tank, and Tank went around the corner. Make no mistake about it. That's Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon carrying the ball 30 times and doing what he did, that shortens the game. I don't even know that this team needs to shorten the game. They have the ability to. I think this team is built to where that, and that's what's the craziest thing about this game as well, is the best teams can play multiple styles. We saw times where the Patriots would come out and they'd run the ball. And then we saw times where the Patriots would come out and they would line up 5 wide. We see the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs, I think the stat the other day was they didn't have a touch. They had like 1 touchdown pass outside of the red zone last season. We've seen Patrick Mahomes light up the stat sheet. We've seen the Chiefs win with defense. We've seen them win different ways. The Texans could ideally be a team that's built to play in a shootout. They could be that. But today, they controlled the clock, 40 minutes. They were able to overcome mistakes, and they were able to shorten the game and end up beating Indianapolis. I won't say dominating, although there was some physical dominance when it came to the run game and the time of possession. So the Texans, they won today in a style that might not even be how they're best equipped to win, but who knows? My one concern with Joe Mixon, though, just to keep an eye on, I don't want him having 30 carries every game. I would like to give him some sort of a rest. I know he was fresh. I know that he had the juice going. I'm not saying he's not capable of it. I would just like to see him be able to be spelled a little bit much, but it's hard to complain after this. Just something to keep an eye on. So that's takeaway one. Joe Mixon as good as advertised. Another super chat from Robert Ross. I joined late. What do you make of the DBs getting burned deep 5 or 6 times? Not ideal. Not ideal. I will say maybe there's like a certain element of surprise when Alec Pierce or some of these guys beat you. But yeah, especially the Jimmy Ward getting mossed by Pierce, not ideal. I wouldn't make too much of it, but it is something to keep an eye on. And say what you want about Anthony Richardson. He can fling that for sure. Next takeaway, Diggs as advertised. The over-under for Diggs touchdowns, I think, is 5.5. He's already got 2. The over-under for rushing yards for Joe Mixon, I think, was 850. He's already got over 150. So he needs 700 in 16 games. Stefon Diggs, him and CJ Stroud have chemistry. It doesn't take away from his chemistry with Tank Dell or Nico Collins either. Nico Collins probably. Diggs had 2 touchdowns. You can make a case that Nico Collins and CJ Stroud produced the 2 biggest plays of the game. So this wide receiver group that we were talking about being one of the best in the league, it looked the part. And maybe Diggs is the red zone guy and Nico Collins is the guy that does a lot of the dirty work. I don't think either one of them give a damn, to be honest with you. But both of those guys came through, and Diggs is as advertised. There's no learning curve for him and CJ Stroud to get on the same page. They're already on the same page. We'll hear from CJ in just a sec. Continue the biggest takeaways. The time of possession dominance was insane. And I'm going to connect that to my very next one. But if you control the ball for 40 minutes, you're going to win more times than not. I wonder what that stat is. But if you have the ball for 40 minutes, more times than not, you're going to win, which leads to this one. I think this is the biggest long-term type of takeaway from this game. The margin for error has increased for the Texans. It's increased. It's way higher than it's ever been. And there was a time where it was really small, especially when they were really, really bad. And you can even go back to the O'Brien days. Like if there had been an end of the first half blunder, like what happened today with the Texans, they're not going to win the game a lot of the time, even if they play well, because the margin for error was so much smaller. But when you coach up players like DeMeco Ryans and Bobby Slowick do, when you bring in talented guys like Nick Caserio has done, and DeMeco Ryans, I'll give him credit for that as well, then the margin for error is larger. And that's why you can have a blunder like that. And the referee was a dope. He was a moron. But again, don't let the Texans off the hook. You shouldn't be running a play with 5 seconds left. 48-yard field goal with a kicker like Kaimi Fairbairn. Who knows if you even get out of bounds? But you shouldn't be running a play no matter what. The dopey ref needs to get his stuff together. He enjoyed that camera time a little bit too much. He might have texted his family at halftime saying, "Hey, did you see that joke I told to the Indianapolis crowd after about the confusion? Did you hear him laugh?" Get your ass out there and explain it right. Maybe that wouldn't have happened. But regardless of the explanation, regardless of the situation, kick the field goal. DeMeco knows that. In the past, this might be something that we're talking about costing them a game. But again, the margin of error is increased. So it's not. It's just one of those teachable moments that good teams often get. And the Texans are a good team. The bottom line, though, like we can talk about this, we can talk about that. The bottom line, though, when it comes to this squad, I'll get to that in a sec. First, though, another super H-Town doing his thing again. TD 2000. Thoughts on us not using play action boot like last year for big plays? Rather, it seemed we were concerned with working out of the pocket and not mixing that up. That'll come and go. Bobby Slowick, he'll mix stuff up. I think now that you've seen Mixon do what he did, I think there's definitely going to be a little more respect from the opponent on the run game, which is going to open up a lot of things. It's going to be pick your poison for the Texans offense. But this is the bottom line. With all this stuff we talk about, if we're looking at this matchup, whenever you play a division opponent and that division opponent has a young quarterback and you have a young quarterback, you don't just look at that game. You look at the future. And there's going to be a lot of battles between the Texans and Colts. There's going to be some times where the Colts win. There's going to be some times where the Texans win. The bottom line is they have a good coach. They have a pretty physical team up front. They have one of the better running backs in the league, who, by the way, the Texans kept in check. DeMeco's defense, despite giving up the big play, They kept Jonathan Taylor in check, which if you told me they were going to give up a few big plays but keep Jonathan Taylor in check, I might take that trade. But the bottom line is this. CJ Stroud is elite and Anthony Richardson isn't. And that's not going to change anytime soon. So Shane Steichen can put together a perfect game plan. Anthony Richardson can make these spectacular plays, but the inability to hit Adonai Mitchell when he's wide open for a touchdown, the interception after that, regardless of what that was, sailing the ball over Adonai Mitchell's head on 4th and 1 on the opening drive when you're kind of trying to set the tone, that doesn't necessarily get canceled out by a couple of fluky, spectacular plays. And the ordinary stuff is going to prevent Anthony Richardson from getting where the Colts prayed that he would get. And CJ Stroud is only going to get better. And when CJ Stroud is slipping around and he's perhaps makes a couple of mistakes that could have been more costly, but they end up getting wiped away, specifically the one after halftime that could have been an interception, he's able to make plays that few quarterbacks can make, but it's not just going back and closing your eyes and tossing it up in the air. So that, as much as we talk about this, the bottom line is CJ Stroud is elite and Anthony Richardson is not. That's just really what it is. And more times than not, especially when you have a talented team, when you have the quarterback advantage, you're going to win more times than you lose. And the Texans will have the quarterback advantage as long as Anthony Richardson and CJ Stroud are meeting each other. It's just what it is. Can Anthony Richardson get the best of CJ Stroud? Occasionally, sure. But CJ Stroud is elite, and he's only going to get better. The Anthony Richardson experience, it's pretty clear what it is. And we saw it today. Let's hear from CJ Stroud. Let's hear from the elite quarterback in this matchup. CJ Stroud meeting with the media types.
Yeah, first and foremost, I want to give all glory and praise to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Just very grateful for another season, to be in the NFL, a long dream of mine. But I feel like, honestly, we definitely did have a ton of great things, but we definitely have some things to work on. But I mean, this is week 1. Everybody's rusty. Everybody's rusty. I'm not going to name any names, but yeah. So, I mean, I just think if you can come out week 1 and get a dub against a divisional opponent, it's huge. You know what I mean? So I think everybody played well on offense. We just got to stop shooting ourselves in the foot, and we'll keep rolling, man. I think this offense is just getting started. So I'm very excited. It was huge. Yeah, I think definitely when you can impose your will running the ball, you open up a whole multitude of type of players for Bobby to call. And honestly, we just kept going to it, and I think it was working. And I think this is a testament that, you can see everybody had numbers today. Maybe not everybody. It was skewed in other ways, but, everybody touched the ball. We try to call plays for guys, you know what I mean, for everybody to have opportunity to get it. And I think whenever you get those guys the ball, they make plays happen. So for me, I just got to get them the ball as best as I can and not force anything and just really, understand that those guys are going to make me look good. It's huge. I definitely think that there are two great leaders. They were constantly on the sideline picking guys up, telling everybody that we just need to be better, you know what I mean? And I definitely think those guys having big games would definitely just keep us, on a trending going up, just because those guys are two leaders. So, once you set a standard, everybody else kind of falls to that standard and wants to follow that. So I definitely love those guys and love what they've been doing. And I think they're just getting started.
You said a couple times before, TJ, that pressure is a privilege.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's week 1, but have you felt a difference this year compared to last year? Not just being a second-year player versus rookie, but the spotlight on this team has to feel different.
Yeah, but I kind of like the saying, that's a privilege for everybody to, have those expectations for us because they're there for a reason. There's a ton of special guys on this team, and there's no real reward. I feel like if there is no pressure, you know what I mean. You want to kind of have your back against the wall and we have that big red target on our back, and that's something we didn't have last year. Something I'm kind of used to being from Ohio State. But I definitely do think, that saying is kind of what this team is about. Like we love that pressure. We want that pressure, and we want to answer that bell every time we get a chance to. So I definitely do think that that's what we're going to live by. And we're really excited to have this type of team because, as you can see, like we're very close and we love each other.
DJ, how do you find the good in that and not fall for the trappings of that, like all the
You said it right there. It's a trap. So why fall? Why look at things that I can't control? Why worry about things that I can't control? I can only control my play and my effort and my execution. So I think today, even though we missed a lot of plays and we didn't execute at the highest level, we executed at a high level to win the game. Man, tongue twister. But yeah, so yep.
CJ, what about the motion that Nico had specifically that catch down the stretch?
Got you. It was huge. I definitely think that we love those type of moments. Like, gotta have it, need it right here. And he did a great job of just securing the catch. I try to put in a spot where he can get it. DB kind of played it well. But they say there's no. What do they say? The defense, no perfect defense for the perfect throw or something like that. That's it right there. But no, kudos to the Colts too. They're a great, well-coached team. They flew around today. They changed up some looks that we didn't think that we're going to get. And they made us drive down the field, be methodical. And I feel like when we did that, we look good.
How did you develop that relationship with Nico to be able to play breaks down and look at the number 12?
Yeah, I think it's not just me looking for Neat. It's really just our preparation for that drill of just working the scramble drill. And we have certain things that we want to get done in that. And I think when we stay true to that, that the sky is the limit when it comes to scrambling. Because I don't know if y'all noticed, but I'll try to run a little more. Joe challenged me to see how athletic I was. So I felt like I got loose a couple times. But I think that's another thing I can get better at, is just scrambling. And when they play good on the back end, being able to use my feet.
You got time for two more guys. Is it about from the league? You know that Bremen was right there, or you just knew that it's going to be a play right?
No, that was a play, and when I slipped, I knew that nobody touched me, so I was like, man, let me just still try to salvage this play. So it was kind of cool, but that field I think it's new, so I think they got to break it in a little more. But it wasn't a bad field, but definitely just got to get my feet under me. It's week one, is clumsiness happens.
Another last thing, going back to the end of the first half, a little odd situation that was going on there. Can you kind of walk us through what's going on, the players, and what the whole confusion was going on there?
Week one, everybody's rusty. So I'm rusty. We're rusty is the whole. I think the officials told us one thing, but we got another, and it's up to us to really make the situation right. It's my job, you know what I mean? So I got to be better right there, and that's something we can definitely learn from, you know what I mean? I definitely don't think it's the end of the world, but those points could have cost us, you know what I mean? So we definitely got to be better.
You mentioned on the offseason how the offense kind of runs you, you and Captain relationship. How did that kind of play itself out from your perspective in this first?
Yeah, I think for me, going into this year, I knew that all the eyes were going to be on me about how this offense rolls, but I don't think that's true. I think that there's so many leaders on this offense, and I honestly didn't say much because I didn't really have to. Joe and Steph and like Juice, there's a ton of guys who like, man, we got this. We just got to stop shooting ourselves in the foot. We'll roll. So, and I, of course, have some things to say as well. But when you have, leaders working together for a common cause, I think that's a recipe for success.
All right, there you go. That's CJ Stroud. How about that? And it goes back to what we said. They didn't play good, and they still got the dub. That's a great thing. Texans win, and they still have a lot to work on. Quarterback said it himself. D'Amico Ryans said it himself. So that's what it is right there. Still a lot to work on, and a lot of time to do it, and something to definitely build on for the Texans. So CJ Stroud gets the job done. Texans, by the way, the only team in the AFC South with one win. They will be atop the standings. The Tennessee Titans, they lose to the Bears, who the Texans will face next Sunday night. Will Levis, 2 INT, 19-32, 127 yards in that loss. Not ideal for him. And then the Jags, they were up 14-0 on the Dolphins, but they end up losing on a last-second field goal. So The Texans hand the Colts an L. The Jags and Titans go take their L's on their own. So the Texans will be in first place through 1 week with a lot to work on, and a Chicago team coming off a 1-0 start over the old Oilers / Tennessee Titans. So that's where the Texans are at. Lot to work on, lot to get done. 40-minute time of possession and a margin for error that we are not familiar with. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. Be sure to tune in after every post game right here in the locker room. We got you covered. Let's go to some of the comments, though. If you have a question or anything, just put the question. There's a lot of side convos going on, so sometimes it can be a little bit hard to follow. Didn't play well on the road and won. Fact, that's the biggest takeaway there. Stingley sucked. Look, he got burned by Mitchell for sure. It wasn't his best game. I thought one time McCourty kind of blamed him for something that wasn't his fault. Who knows? But yeah, if Anthony Richardson can make a throw that most high schoolers could make, and this isn't like Lamar Jackson extending a play and then missing a throw. Like, this was just put it in the arms of Adonai Mitchell, then maybe it's a little bit different of a game. So that's where they are. Also, the offensive line, I'm still a little bit concerned. I know there's been talks that the offensive line could be better. I do think there's a little bit of concern for the offensive line. Good run blocking, better run blocking, and maybe the pass blocking gets a little bit better, but there were definitely some suspect situations there, specifically on the right side. Jimmy Ward just gave Bullock more snaps. It's 3rd and 15. It's no way you should give up a deep completion when you know that's what they're trying to do. Yeah, I don't know. Look, I mean, maybe Jimmy just had a bad game. Bullock will be out there in situations. I don't know that Jimmy Ward had like a huge lapse in play to where he's going to get reps taken away. Let's go Texans with the dub. Shout out to Juan. 3 big bombs downfield against us. Is Ward a concern? So Jimmy Ward's the guy that people are looking at right now. The frustration not as intense because you do get the dub, but Jimmy Ward, so the safety position, still a little bit concerned. Jimmy is the new Petrie. Jimmy's getting roasted. I didn't anticipate that. He wasn't good. He got mossed by Alec Pierce. That's not good. Even like getting burned is one thing. Getting mossed by Alec Pierce, that's rough for sure. False starts were concerning. The Kenyon Green right out of the timeout, I would say that one was concerning. The Laramie Tunsil was misleading, the first one. The second one, I think everybody moved. I think Shaq Mason and everyone moved, and they just said Tunsil. But the first one, it was going to be a delay of game. Like, someone needed to move. He moved first, like with 1 second left. They weren't ready to snap it. I thought that one was a little bit misleading for sure. Like what I saw from Lassiter, didn't seem to want to go his way much. Well, he got that work from Adonai Mitchell too. Like Adonai Mitchell, All right, we're back. I don't know what's going on here. I guess the computer kind of shut down on that end, but we're still good. Let me know if you can hear me. I don't know what it is. People are blaming the Russians. People are blaming all types of stuff. No idea what that is, but let me know if you can hear me. I don't know what the heck that was about, but yeah, we're good. All right, so yeah, this is a little bit of adjustment. Obviously, not going to be the sound quality. Don't know what went down there, but the basic takeaways: Texans don't play good. Texans kind of struggle a little bit. Not the ideal situation. But yeah, another storm in Houston is on the way. So there you go. Never ever froze for me. Good for that.
but we're not on life support. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. And be sure to always remember when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Appreciate all the comments. Appreciate all of the support. And thanks for coming into the locker room. D'Amico speaks tomorrow. We'll hear what he's got to say. We'll do the night stream throughout the week. Special reaction Monday with myself and Cody Stutes as well. An exclusive collaboration beginning tomorrow will likely be just the beginning. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Always remember, we're all in this together. Hell of a dub for the Texans. Hell of a time to be alive.